Today you're going to complete a flipped lesson over water. Normally these will be done at home and outside of class, but today this is going to be a practice for how you will do these on your own in the future. So watch the video and follow the instructions throughout. At this time, please pause the video. Then, on a piece of notebook paper, write down 3 things that you already know about water. After you've completed this, then you may press play to resume watching the video. On your piece of paper, skip a line from the previous thing you wrote down and write chemical formula as the next title. The chemical formula for water is H2O. This is a formula that you probably encountered in advertising in your life. You know that water is H2O, but do you know what H2O actually stands for? H2O stands for 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen that bind together to make a water molecule. So we see this 2 right here behind the H, which indicates that we have 2 hydrogens present, and there is nothing behind the O, which means we only have 1 oxygen. Water has a very interesting chemical structure, and the easiest way to remember its structure is to think of Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse has 2 ears that are made up of smaller circles and a face that is made of a larger circle. In water, water is made up in the same manner. The ears in water are going to represent the hydrogen molecules, the 2 hydrogens, and the face represents the oxygen molecule. Now there's something very special about water, and this is that water has certain charges on its molecule that allow it to have special properties that are super important for sustaining life on Earth. So let's redraw this over here, and then we're going to add the charges. So we're going to draw our larger circle and our 2 smaller circles. Our 2 smaller circles are our hydrogens. Write those in a different color so it's easier for you to see. Now our hydrogens have a positive charge. So they are positive, positive, positive. Our oxygen, on the other hand, is negative. So we have a negative charge down here at the very bottom of the oxygen. So go ahead and draw the structure of water that I drew right here on your paper under the title Chemical Structure. Make sure to pause the video if you need more time, and then press play when you're ready to move on. Okay, here's our water molecule again. Let's talk a little bit more about the importance of the difference in charges on our water molecule. So we have positive on each of the hydrogens and a negative down here at the bottom of the oxygen. This is very special because this difference in charges is called a special word. It is called polar. So polar equals a difference in charges. I would write that down if I were you. So water is polar. The fact that water is polar is going to be very important as we go forward talking about the various properties of water. So make sure you have that definition of polar down. Again, it is the difference in charges, the fact that we have positive charges on our hydrogen molecules and a negative charge on our oxygen molecule. Okay, right now I want you to draw 3 water molecules like I did on my screen. Draw these on your paper, and I want you to label the oxygen molecules, the hydrogen molecules, and write where the positive charges and the negative charges go. Pause the video, and when you get ready, you can press play to move on to the next slide to see if you were able to do it correctly. Okay, hopefully you had a chance and you were successful in correctly labeling your hydrogen and oxygen molecules on each of the 3 water molecules, as well as correctly labeling the positive and the negative charges on each of the 3 water molecules. It was okay to use your notes, so now let's see if you did it correctly. You should have written down something like this. We should have gotten our two hydrogens in our small circles labeled with each having a positive charge. Our oxygen in our larger circle is Mickey's face with a negative charge hanging out at the bottom of that oxygen molecule. And each of your three water molecules should look identical to the first one you drew. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the importance of these charges. How in the world is this important? Well, in nature, water does not just exist as one single molecule. We're going to have multiple molecules, thousands, millions of molecules in a single drop of water. Okay, in your bottle of water, right, you're not just having a single molecule of water. We have a whole bunch of molecules of water that create the water that we can see, drink, and use to live. So we're going to talk about what makes water stick together. The idea of water sticking together has a special word to explain it, and that word is cohesion. If I can get the pen to work, cohesion. So cohesion means water sticks to water. So write that down on your paper. Cohesion means water sticking to water. So let's draw in now, how exactly does water stick to water? Well, an important thing to remember is that when it comes to water, and because of the polarity of water, meaning that, remember, water has opposite charges. It has positive and negative charges on the same molecule, which makes it polar. We have a property that's going to be opposites attract. So we're going to have opposites attracting, which is going to cause our water to bond together. So when we say opposites attract, that's going to mean that a positive is going to be attracted to a negative. So let's go ahead and do this and draw these bonds in. So we have this hydrogen here is going to be attracted to the negative charge on the neighboring oxygen molecule. And so is this one. So now these two water molecules right here are now bonded together. We can do the same thing with the other ones. We're going to have these hydrogens are going to be attracted to the negative oxygen on the neighboring water molecule and therefore are now going to be stuck together. Can you identify the last place where we need to draw in our bond? Good. Hopefully you notice that these hydrogens up here at the top, their positive is going to be attracted to this negative down here, and so they're going to want to bind down here. All right, hopefully you need to go ahead and make sure you have all this written down on your paper before moving on to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what exactly is this bond here. This bond between a hydrogen and another molecule has a very special name. It is called a hydrogen bond. So a hydrogen bond exists right here. Anywhere we have a green line drawn is a hydrogen bond. It is a bond between a hydrogen molecule, a positive hydrogen, and another molecule, in this case, is going to be our negative oxygen. And hydrogen's bond exists because of the fact that opposites are going to attract. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video if you need to go back and review some of this, or if you need to finish writing something down. Otherwise, feel free to keep on moving right along. Okay, let's take a quick recap over what we've talked about today in our flipped lesson. We learned, first of all, about the chemical structure of water. Water looks like Mickey Mouse. Remember, we have two hydrogens at the top, which are the ears, and the face is our oxygen molecule. Remember, we have a separation of charges, a difference in charges, which means that water is polar, and polar is this difference in charges. It's the fact that we have positive hydrogen molecules and negative oxygen molecule on the same thing, which makes it polar. And polar lets us do really cool things like making water stick to water, which is called cohesion. So cohesion is when water sticks to water. And later this week, we're going to learn about a couple different words called adhesion, surface tension, and capillary action, which are all super important properties of water and which can only exist because of the fact that water is polar. So I hope through this video that you were able to learn about the basic properties and structure of water, the very, very basics, because the rest of the week we're going to be diving a little bit deeper and discussing more properties of water and how water sustains all life on Earth. At this time, make sure your notes are complete and go ahead and get ready to do the next step on your assignment by submitting it on Schoology and following the instructions to do either the next thing that it says to do.